Good morning, Bhargav and Uday. Today is Friday, November 3rd, and here's the heads up brief for today. Today's production to our clients consisted of a total of 70 issues. We covered 38 issues in East Asia Pacific, 19 issues in South Asia, and 13 issues in the EMEA region. I will be briefing you on the top issues of today's production.
Hello, Bassel. Thank you. Let's move on to the major issues, please.
Sure. In East Asia Pacific, I'll be covering the top of the 38 issues. In Indonesia, Papua, at least 5 healthcare workers were injured after the West Papua National Liberation Army attacked the Amuma Community Health Center in Highland, Papua on October 31st. The incident occurred at around 10 a.m. local time when health workers were at the health center office. The latest attacks are a fear-mongering tactic used by the TPNPB to hamper Jakarta's ability to govern. This is also seen by the group's attacks on infrastructure. We covered this as the major development in Southeast Asia today.
All right, yeah. Make sure the team keeps tracking this because we have seen an uptick of violence in recent weeks and in recent years, actually. And also make sure we keep clients updated on the TPNBP's movements, especially along key resource areas in Papua. Thanks.
Sure, we'll keep monitoring this closely. In South Asia, I'll be covering the top 2 of the 19 issues. In Pakistan, President Arif Alvi and the Election Commission of Pakistan have reached an agreement to hold general elections on February 8th, 2024. Politicking amongst political parties is expected to increase across the country ahead of the polls. We covered this as the major development in South Asia today.
All right. So the political parties are likely to mobilize nationwide as the election date nears. And it is a positive development that they actually reached an agreement given the Pakistan's political context. Such issues can turn out to be quite a clamor among the power brokers, including the military, the president, and the political parties. So let's keep a close eye on how the political parties unfurl their nationwide rallies ahead of the elections.
Yeah, and I think I'm not so optimistic about the elections solving the political crisis. It's just come out that the Pakistan People's Party will campaign with the Pakistan Tehreek Insaf in Punjab province. And this is quite ironic considering, and they'll be contesting against the Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz to counter that. It's quite ironic because PPP and the PMLN were in an alliance to kick out PTI before. So this is a whole roundabout and classical Pakistani politics.
That's quite comical, I must agree. Uday, could it be because of PMLN's insistence on bringing back Nawaz and how Bilawal was against bringing in a criminal into the political arena?
I definitely think it is along those lines, Bhargav. You're right with that. They're still clamoring for Nawaz that he should face charges and not be let off and be allowed to campaign. But he will be leading the PMLN's campaigns in Pakistan. So let's see how it turns out.
Right, makes sense.
Yes, thank you. In Bangladesh, several political parties will hold rallies and events in Dhaka and across the country today. The Islami Andolan Bangladesh, which is an opposition political party, has announced a rally at the Suhrawardi Udyan. The nation is also set to observe Jail Killing Day today. The BNP has called for prayer meetings today. These are likely to be held at party offices and public squares in major cities. Security will be also significantly heightened in Dhaka given the parallel events announced by different political parties. Both planned and spontaneous demonstrations by party workers will cause disruptions to road travel, especially in routes leading to and from event venues. Additionally, garment workers have been involved in violent protests in and around Dhaka. We released an APAC advisory on this today.
All right. So there are a few interesting trends we can see from the ongoing political protests and violence across the country. First and foremost is that of Awami League losing its face somewhat, especially in the democratic context internationally. At the same time, Awami League across the board is looked at as a pro-growth, pro-economic development party with a secular leaning. as opposed to some of the opposition parties which have an Islamist leaning politically. And that's something what's seen on the ground as well. Some of the groups such as the Jamaat-e-Islami have been able to mobilize mass protests against the incumbent government led by Awami League. So that's a troubling sign across the board. Bangladesh has a Muslim population in excess of 84%. Rest of them are minorities, and it's a multi-religious, multi-ethnic community in the country. So if the Islamist trend is actually true on the ground, it can be quite troubling in the coming years if at all Awami League ends up compromising post-elections, or if they lose the elections.
That's very well noted, Bhargav. In the EMEA region, I'll be covering the top 3 of the 13 issues. In Russia, the US yesterday imposed new sanctions against Moscow, targeting Russia's future energy capabilities. The latest measures target a major entity involved in the development, operation, and ownership of a massive project in Siberia known as Arctic 2 LNG. The latest sanctions by Washington on Moscow aims to constrain Russia's energy development, particularly after announcing the LNG project. We conveyed this to our clients via an advisory message today.
All right. So it seems like the West is not learning its lessons. The sanctions can only go so far, and the sanctions may appear to cripple a certain economic aspect of a country like Russia, but given its expanse and ability to sustain itself in terms of energy and otherwise, I really question to what extent the new sanctions will be effective at the moment. Thank you.
Concerning Poland and Ukraine, Polish hauliers will block several land crossings with Ukraine in a protest over Ukrainian hauliers' free reign in Poland that is hurting their business. The protest is planned to take place on November 6th and continue throughout the week. The blockades at key border crossings could lead to immediate disruptions in the supply chain. This will affect not just Poland and Ukraine, but potentially the broader EU market. The protests underscore the challenges the EU in particular faces in maintaining solidarity among its members when national interests are at odds with collective decisions. We also conveyed this to our clients via an advisory message today.
Yes, this is a very interesting trend, and I must say this is not unexpected. To what extent will the border areas or even mainstream Polish society will withstand an influx of mass influx of Ukrainian citizens in Poland? And that's something what we have seen in multiple refugee situations. The host society may appear politically in support of the overall cause, in this case, the Ukrainian cause, but at the same time, there are ground realities which may be hard to swallow, whether it's religious, communal, economic, or simply the local interests in businesses. So this was never going to be sustainable. I mean, the borders, for a reason, especially in Eastern Europe, these are ethno-nationalistic countries. And to what extent will they actually tolerate mass influx of another ethnicity into their country? That's something to question. And these concerns were raised initially as well, and those are turning out to be true.
Exactly, Bhargav, and tensions have previously increased between Polish and Ukrainian leaders over this issue. So we'll keep monitoring this and see how it goes in the coming weeks, especially. Concerning the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, here's an update. Approximately 9,000 Palestinians and 1,500 Israelis have been killed. Around 19,000 Palestinians and 3,500 Israelis have been injured. Several cars were burned down and buildings damaged yesterday by rocket missiles fired by Hezbollah in Kiryat Shmona, which is in northern Israel. The U.S. House of Representatives has approved a bill for $14.3 billion in aid to Israel. Hezbollah leaders say Nasrallah is expected to comment on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict today. We conveyed this to our clients via an advisory message as well.
All right, let's keep a close eye on these developments in Israel and Palestine. And what's of major concern is that Israel is not hearing to any of these calls for ceasefire. At the same time, they have encroached upon Gaza territory and they seem to be entering Gaza City very soon. And that's going to be debilitating for Israeli forces if they do not consider how complex and different the urban warfare is, especially with tunnels in the Gazan territory. And they seem to be using tunnels very effectively against the IDF. Bassel, would you like to chime in on this?
Yes, sure, Bhargav. We've been seeing instances of several videos posted by Hamas where they are attacking Israeli tanks and soldiers, as well as the use of drones, using also Ukrainian tactics, how Ukrainians use drones against the Russians in the conflict. So it's interesting to see this. They're effectively using the tunnels. The IDF is going to guerrilla warfare against Hamas, which is something they have lost previously to in 2008 and 2014, or at least they didn't achieve their objectives of annihilating the group. So I think the conflict will intensify in the coming days. And what's especially important to monitor right now is the speech by the Hezbollah chief today at 3 p.m. Lebanese time, so that everything is clear what will happen on the northern front of Israel. Actually, some Israeli newspapers, they mentioned that this day is called the Doomsday because of this speech. So we'll keep monitoring this closely and see how things evolve.
All right. Thank you, Bassel. Nothing further from my end.
Anything
Thanks,
from your
Bassel.
end today? Thanks. Bye.
Thanks.